good girl, respectful girl, responsible girl. And each label came with a rule book no one ever handed to me because it was expected that I would already know it. A good girl didn't talk back. A good girl didn't draw attention. A good girl didn't ask for more than she was given. A good girl never wanted something that didn't fit inside the boundaries drawn for her. I didn't grow up in a home where emotions were forbidden, but emotions were managed, organized, packaged into something polite, something presentable. If sadness came, it had to come quietly. If fear came, it had to come with prayer and discipline. If hope came, it had to be approved, like an application that required signatures. I was good at being approved. School was where I learned how to perform excellence. Home was where I learned how to perform obedience. And somewhere between those two places, I learned how to perform a life that looked perfectly fine even when parts of me felt unanswered. My school wasn't huge, the kind of place where teachers recognized your footsteps before they saw your face, where classmates could guess your mood based on the way you held your backpack. Everyone had a role. The loud students had the spotlight, the confident students had the respect, the rebellious students had the rumors, and the quiet students like me, had expectations. I kept my head down. I volunteered. I did extra credit. I helped others without being asked. It wasn't just kindness. It was safety. Because when you are known as the good one, people don't look too closely. They assume you're fine. They assume you don't have secrets. They assume you don't have a heart that wants things. I assumed that too. Not because it was romantic, not because it was dramatic, because it felt like someone turned on a light in a room I didn't know was dark. It happened in a classroom after a test. Most students were relieved and noisy, complaining about questions and comparing answers. I was quietly gathering my papers, already thinking about what I needed to do next. He was sitting 2 rows behind me. I knew his face. Everyone knew everyone's face, but I didn't know him. He didn't belong to a group in the way others did. He wasn't a clown. He wasn't a star. He wasn't a troublemaker. He was calm, the kind of calm that makes you curious because it's rare. As I stood to leave, my pencil rolled off the desk and hit the floor. I bent down to grab it, and he reached at the same time, his hand stopping just before mine. "Sorry," he said quickly, like he didn't want to startle me. "It's okay," I replied, forcing a polite smile. He handed me the pencil, then paused like he was deciding whether to speak again. "What did you think about question 7? He asked. I blinked. "The essay one?" He nodded. Most people only asked me questions when they wanted help, but he wasn't asking for answers. He was asking for thoughts. So I gave him my honest opinion. We talked for maybe 2 minutes, that's all. But when I walked away, I realized something strange. My shoulders felt lighter. It wasn't because the conversation was deep. It was normal, simple, but it was normal in a way I wasn't used to. He spoke to me like I was a person, not a perfect student, not a good girl, not a future wife, just me. A question about homework, a comment about a book, a joke whispered quietly so no one else heard. He didn't chase attention, but he also didn't hide. He simply existed, confident enough to be himself without needing the crowd to validate him. That confidence was different from arrogance. It wasn't loud, it was steady, and it drew me in. We started meeting in the library, not as a date, not even as an arrangement, just studying. We sat at different ends of the same table, always with enough space that it looked innocent. But our attention drifted toward each other anyway. Sometimes I caught him watching me, not in a creepy way, not in a dramatic way, just a glance that said, "I notice you." Sometimes he would slide a note across the table. Nothing romantic, just a quote from the book we were reading or a funny comment about the strict librarian. And I would smile carefully because smiling too much would invite questions. In my world, questions were dangerous. People didn't ask questions to understand. They asked questions to control. So I learned to keep things small, but feelings don't stay small if you keep feeding them, even with tiny moments. And we were feeding something without calling it a name. There was a day in the hallway, just a normal day that changed the way I understood my own heart. I had volunteered for something. Of course, I always did. A teacher needed help carrying supplies, and I said yes before I even thought about it. I was walking with a stack of heavy folders when someone bumped into me. The folders slipped, papers falling like snow across the floor. I froze, not because it was a big deal, but because I hated being the center of attention, even for something small. I could feel eyes turning toward me. I could feel the heat of embarrassment crawling up my neck. Before I could move, he was there. He crouched down, gathering papers quickly, calmly. "Like this happened every day here," he said, handing me a neat stack. I tried to laugh it off. I'm fine. I know. He said softly, "You're always fine." He didn't say it like a compliment. He said it like a question. Like he could tell that being fine was something I worked hard to maintain. For a second, I forgot how to breathe because it wasn't romantic words. It wasn't a confession. It was something scarier. It was understanding. He saw the pressure behind my perfection and he didn't judge me for it. He just noticed that night lying in bed, I realized I kept replaying the moment in my head, not the papers falling, not the embarrassment, but the look in his eyes when he said, "You're always fine." That was the first time I admitted to myself, this isn't just friendship. People assume young love is reckless, but ours wasn't. It was cautious. It was careful. We never held hands in public. We never whispered in corners like secret lovers. We never did anything that would give someone a reason to point, not because we didn't want to, but because we didn't know how to live with the consequences. In my world, one rumor could become a life sentence. And even beyond that, I had a fear I couldn't explain. If I let myself want something too openly, someone might take it away. So we stayed inside boundaries. We talked, we studied. We shared jokes and small pieces of ourselves. Sometimes we walked after school, always in places where it looked accidental, like we were simply going the same direction. Sometimes he would wait for me outside a classroom pretending he was checking his phone, and I would pretend I didn't notice the way my heart sped up every time. It was innocent, but it was real. And because it was never labeled, it felt safe until it wasn't. The final school year has a strange energy. Everyone pretends they're excited, but underneath, everyone is afraid. Because endings are coming, people start talking about next city, next life, next expectations. For most people, next is freedom. For me, next was pressure. The closer we got to graduation, the more I felt the walls tightening around my future. My family had dreams for me that were already planned. I didn't have to choose. I just had to follow. He had choices. That's what I didn't understand at first. He could go anywhere. He could become anything. And as the year moved forward, that difference began to matter. He started getting attention from new people, teachers, counselors, students who suddenly cared about his potential. He started joining activities he never cared about before, not because he changed into a different person, but because he realized the world was opening for him. And I was happy for him. I truly was, but there was a quiet fear underneath my happiness. What if the world opens and he walks away? And once you feel seen like that, it's hard to go back to being invisible. It happened after a school meeting, college prep, future planning, something like that. He found me near the stairs where fewer students passed.
Yeah.
Okay. He asked, I smiled automatically. Yeah. Why he hesitated? You get quiet when people talk about the future. I tried to laugh. I'm always quiet. No, he said, not like that. His voice was gentle, but it made me feel exposed. I looked away. I don't know what I'm allowed to want, I admitted. He didn't respond immediately. He just stood there like he was letting my words settle. Then he said something I didn't expect. I want you to want things. I felt my throat tighten because no one had ever said that to me before. No one had ever encouraged my desire, my individuality, my choices. In that moment, I believed something dangerous. Maybe he could be my safe place. Maybe he could be the person who helped me become more than the role I had been assigned. And when you believe someone might save you, you become vulnerable to being disappointed. The distance didn't arrive like a storm. It arrived like weather changing slowly, a few degrees colder each day. He still talked to me. He still smiled. He still sat with me sometimes. But the warmth was fading. He started being busy. He started leaving early. He started forgetting things he never forgot before. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I had become too attached. Maybe I expected too much. Maybe I was reading meaning into a friendship that was never promised. I tried to be smaller. I tried to be easier. That's what I had always done, shrink myself to fit what others could handle. But shrinking doesn't bring people closer. It only teaches them you will disappear quietly. And he started treating me like I would. One afternoon, he told me his parents wanted him to consider someone else. He didn't say it harshly. He said it like he was repeating something that had already been decided. They think she's a better match, he said, eyes focused on the floor. I felt cold. A better match. Like people are puzzle pieces meant to fit neatly into each other's lives. I swallowed hard. And what do you think? He looked up just long enough for me to see the conflict in his eyes. I don't know, he said. That was the moment I understood he wasn't choosing, he was drifting. And drift is crueler than honesty because drift lets you hope. We didn't have a fight. We didn't have a dramatic breakup. We didn't even have a conversation that ended things. We simply stopped. He stopped showing up in the library. He stopped waiting near my classroom. He stopped asking how I was. And because I had been trained my whole life to be polite, I didn't chase him. I didn't demand answers. I told myself if it matters, he will come back. If it was real, it will survive, but sometimes what feels real to you is only convenient to someone else. Weeks after graduation, I heard the news from someone else he was engaged. I remember the way the words landed, like a heavy book dropped on my chest. Engaged, not dating, not getting to know, and engaged. A decision made quickly, cleanly, without room for uncertainty. And I realized something that hurt more than the engagement itself. He was capable of choosing. He just didn't choose me. I went through my days like nothing happened. I performed fine, better than ever. But at night, the questions arrived. Why wasn't I enough? Why did I believe in something that wasn't real? Why did I let myself hope? I started rewriting the story in my head, searching for the moment I could have changed the ending. If I had been more confident, if I had been less careful, if I had been different, but the truth is the ending wasn't about me. It was about fear, his fear of disappointment, his fear of conflict, his fear of going against expectations, and my fear too. My fear of speaking up, my fear of being too much, my fear of wanting openly. We were both afraid. But only one of us lost something precious. I lost my belief that quiet love always means safe love. It wasn't a tragedy. It was a lesson, a painful one, yes, but necessary because it taught me someone can respect you and still not commit. Someone can notice you and still leave. Someone can feel close and still choose convenience. And it taught me something even more important. If you always perform fine, people will believe you don't need care. So now I try not to perform. I try to be honest because love isn't proven by quiet moments alone. Love is proven by staying. After everything ended, life didn't pause. That surprised me. I thought heartbreak would feel louder. I thought the world would slow down, give me space to catch my breath, but it didn't. Days continued, responsibilities continued. People smiled, talked, planned futures, and I followed along, doing what I had always done, showing up, performing fine, keeping my pain quiet. From the outside, nothing looked broken, but inside something had shifted. I no longer trusted my instincts. Every feeling came with doubt. Every connection felt temporary. I learned how easy it was for someone to walk away without explanation, and that knowledge stayed with me. No one ever sat me down and asked, "Did that hurt you?" Because I never let it show. I had grown up believing that emotional strength meant endurance. That being mature meant not needing comfort, so I carried my sadness alone. Late at night, I replayed memories, not to feel close to him, but to understand where I had gone wrong. Had I been too careful? Had I been too quiet? Had I expected too much from something that was never promised? I question everything. When a heart breaks without a clear ending, it searches endlessly for answers, and I was searching in all the wrong places. Part 2, do English. Part 2 English. They extended first person, fully fictional, YouTube safe, emotional healing arcs, reminder important. This is a fictional inspired narrative. It does not describe real events from Jill Duggar's life. The boy I thought was my future was only a school chapter. Part 2, learning to heal, learning to choose myself, first person. Extended fiction, the 13 life after the ending, after everything ended. Life didn't pause. That surprised me. I thought heartbreak would feel louder. I thought the world would slow down, give me space to catch my breath, but it didn't. Days continued, responsibilities continued. People smiled, talked, planned futures. And I followed along, doing what I had always done, showing up, performing fine, keeping my pain quiet. From the outside, nothing looked broken, but inside something had shifted. I no longer trusted my instincts. Every feeling came with doubt. Every connection felt temporary. I learned how easy it was for someone to walk away without explanation. And that knowledge stayed with me. 14, the questions no one asked. No one ever sat me down and asked, "Did that hurt you?" Because I never let it show. I had grown up believing that emotional strength meant endurance, that being mature meant not needing comfort. So I carried my sadness alone. Late at night, I replayed memories, not to feel close to him, but to understand where I had gone wrong. Had I been too careful? Had I been too quiet? Had I expected too much from something that was never promised? I questioned everything. When a heart breaks without a clear ending, it searches endlessly for answers. And I was searching in all the wrong places. 15, when silence becomes a habit, time passed. New environments, new routines, new expectations, but silence followed me. I became skilled at emotional restraint. I smiled at the right moments. I laughed when expected. I listened more than I spoke. People called me calm. They called me mature. What they didn't see was that calmness had become armor. I wasn't protecting myself from pain anymore. I was protecting myself from hope, because hope, I had learned, was dangerous. There was a moment, small but important, when someone noticed the weight I carried. It wasn't dramatic, just a simple question from someone who wasn't trying to fix me. You don't talk much about yourself, they said. I shrugged. There's not much to say. They smiled gently. People who say that usually have the most to say. That sentence stayed with me. For the first time, I wondered if my silence wasn't strength, but fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being dismissed. Fear of being left again. Healing didn't come all at once. It came in uncomfortable realizations. I began to understand that the ending of that school life chapter wasn't caused by my inadequacy. It was caused by avoidance, by someone who chose certainty over honesty, by someone who drifted instead of deciding, and by me, someone who stayed silent instead of asking for clarity. That realization hurt, but it also freed me, because if the ending wasn't about my worth, then my worth didn't end there. For a long time, I believed love meant patience. If you waited long enough, if you were understanding enough, if you asked for little enough, love would stay. But experience taught me something different. Love is not proven by silence. Love is not proven by endurance. Love is not proven by waiting alone. Love is proven by presence, by choosing, by clarity, by staying even when it's inconvenient. That lesson changed everything. The hardest part of healing wasn't letting go of him. It was learning to protect myself. I had never learned boundaries. I had learned compliance. So I began practicing small acts of honesty, saying no when something felt wrong, speaking up when I felt overlooked, admitting when I needed space or reassurance. It felt uncomfortable. Sometimes it felt selfish, but slowly I realized something powerful. Boundaries didn't push people away. They revealed who was willing to stay. I didn't project a future. I didn't fill silence with meaning. I didn't assume patience meant commitment. Instead, I observed, did their words match their actions? Did they show up consistently? Did they make room for my voice? For the first time, I allowed myself to be cautious without being closed, and that balance mattered. The difference was subtle but undeniable. This person didn't disappear when conversations became serious. They didn't avoid questions about the future. They didn't make me guess where I stood. They chose openly, and being chosen felt nothing like anxiety. It felt calm, not the numb calm I had learned before, but a steady, grounded peace. That's when I understood healthy love doesn't feel like uncertainty. It doesn't require decoding. I stopped resenting the school life chapter, not because it didn't hurt, but because it taught me what I needed to learn early. It showed me the cost of silence. It showed me the danger of unspoken hope. It showed me that emotional availability matters more than emotional intensity. Some people enter your life to stay. Others enter to teach. Both have purpose. I'm no longer afraid of wanting. I no longer apologize for needing clarity. I no longer confuse quietness with safety. I still value gentleness. I still believe in patience. But now I also believe in choice, in mutual effort, in visible commitment, because love should never feel like waiting alone in a hallway, hoping someone turns back. Love should feel like walking forward together. If I could speak to my younger self, the girl who believed silence was strength, I would tell her this: you don't have to disappear to be loved. You don't have to be easy to be chosen. You don't have to wait quietly to prove your worth. The right people don't drift. They decide. It doesn't punish you for wanting clarity.